YouTubers, Palm Springs Cindy. I want to share with you my experience of when I went to the Beyond Van Gogh Art Exhibit here at the Indio Polo Grounds. Now, the video that I have is wonderful, and you're going to really enjoy it. I'm not adding music because there is already music in the background from Spotify. And you're going to hear some people talking. You're going to feel like you are at the actual exhibit. Now, the exhibit is not just about, well, it is about Van Gogh's art, but it's much more. So, for example, when you walk in, there are what I call these floating charts. And the charts have information on Van Gogh, his life, his biography, his style of art. And so as you walk through the exhibit and you read through those charts, then you become familiar. You're reminded of the artist Vincent van Gogh. Once you go through reading the charts, you go into what I call the dark room. And the dark room is, you're just not going to believe it. Because Van Gogh was known for his use of color, his use of broad strokes, and his use how he used paint to create movement. So the dark room is about movement, and you're going to experience that. After after we leave the dark room, you're going to go into the main exhibit that it's just you're not going to believe it. It's so wonderful, and I do a little bit of a voiceover, but really it's for you to enjoy looking at. Now, the way it was explained to me was the Beyond Van Gogh art exhibit was really about taking the frame from the canvas and immersing yourself in the actual piece of art. And that is exactly what you're going to feel like you are doing. So before I get started and share the video with you, I just wanted to say that Van Gogh was born in 1853. He died in 1890. He did commit suicide. He shot himself at age 37. He was considered a post-impressionist, and a post-impressionist used vivid colors, thick application of paint. They painted life, scenes and portraits of everyday life, and they were more inclined to use geometric form. So post-impressionists, from what I've learned, differ from the impressionist era in that the impressionist era definitely takes advantage of natural and everyday scenes of life to paint, because before that they painted portraits in a studio. So now the impressionists get out of the studio and they paint by a lake, or they paint by a park, or they paint, someone in eating dinner or fixing dinner, whatever, eating in the kitchen. So their subjects begin to become more everyday life. And the impressionists and the post-impressionists both utilize natural light. Now that they're out of the studio, so to speak, and they're at the park, or they're by the lake, whatever, they are able to use sunlight as their natural light. And in fact, they try to capture that sunlight as it changes from like afternoon to late afternoon, morning to late afternoon. They try to capture the movement of that sunlight in their artwork. So let's see what else I can say, I can share with you. Post-impressionists, which is what Van Gogh was, they tended to not just use geometric form more than the impressionists did, but they tended to distort form, and they tended to use modified colors. Van Gogh was not successful during his lifetime. No one bought his works during his lifetime. They considered him really a tortured artist that was had mental problems. And he did paint or create 2,100 forms of art. Most all of those were in the last 2 years of his life. He he now today he is one of his art is the most expensive for sale. There is a museum dedicated to Van Gogh in Amsterdam. But overall, even though Van Gogh did not enjoy commercial success when he was alive, his works have garnered more per artwork or art piece than any others. So I urge you to Google Vincent van Gogh. He's quite interesting. And so with that, I'm going to let's go to the art exhibit. What you're seeing here is the end of the day at the Polo Grounds where it was held. This is when we walked up, we had a cocktail before we walked in. This is the beautiful venue, the Polo Grounds. This is also where Coachella, the music festival, is held. You can see people hanging around the beverage area. They also had outdoor furniture so that you could sit down outdoors on couches and enjoy looking at the beautiful view. This is the entrance, and now we're in the first room where what I called the floating charts were that gave information about Van Gogh. They had these darling little frames for us to pose in and sort of, just part of the decor. More of the floating frames where you can read about Van Gogh from his whole life. This is what I called the dark room. Look how beautiful. It felt like I was in another world. But Van Gogh is known for his movement and his colors. The next room was a ginormous room, and we'll spend most of the time here. These are just are portraits of people. Many of them are of Van Gogh himself because he could not afford models. Now, if you watch the walls very carefully, you'll see the pictures blinking. Let's see, I think this one blinks.
Oh, what a great shot.
Maybe not. But these portraits are very tall. Notice the movement, and if you follow something, you'll see it change from one art piece to another.
Look at the floor.
Look at the floor.
Donna, look down.
Keep your eye on their eyes. These are self-portraits of Van Gogh. So every picture you see is a picture that he painted of himself at different times in his life. Then here we are. I'm trying to take a little selfie here. I'm not sure, but I think we may be coming to the end. And oh my gosh, I've got great video to share with everybody. It's just one of a real experience. Here's my friend Donna, who was my +1. And there we are. Actually, that's at the beginning as we entered.